already did it. If you are talking, please make sure your red light is on. You do that by pushing the talk button. And so, thank you. Sorry, Sharon.
Green? Here. Getz? Here. Crack? Here. Leathers? Here. Sorensen? Here. Allwelling? Here. Young?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before us we have an agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion, second.
Second.
Peggy, second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And before us today, we have a couple of recognitions, and I will do the first one. Austin has had a proud tradition for the last 8 or so years of inviting a high school student to be part of our board process. And 2 years ago, Sarah E. was our selection. She came to us with a wonderful resume already as a sophomore, and I can honestly say that these 2 years, the things that you have added onto your plate are very impressive. She has not only helped us out here at the board table, she has been a strong leader at the high school, and she has been a strong leader and supporter of our community. And so we would like to present you with a plaque in recognition of service as our student school board representative. Thank you. And then also, approximately 35% of the students in our school boards in the state of Minnesota have student representatives. And we received a recognition, a service award from the Minnesota School Boards Association for your service, and I'd also like to present that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to get just a few words of what your plans are, what you think of your experience, anything you'd like to say?
Okay.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the school board. I thought I was going to get this position. I was competing with a lot of students, especially as I stand out as a Hispanic. So when I got the news, I was really excited. So I want to thank you guys. Not only I grew as a student, but I grew as a human being. During this pandemic, I've learned a lot of things from the school board. Also, I want to thank you guys for continue working and giving us the opportunity to go back to school in person or distance learning. Not a lot of children have the opportunity or the privilege to go back to school, but we as at the Austin Public School District have the opportunity to go back to school. Education is one of the important things in life. If you want to be a person, you have to go to school and try your best. But I'm just really proud of you guys too, not only myself, but you. Also, my next year plans are get certification as a medical assistant, and then from there, go to the 2+2 program for nursing, and then hopefully get my master's and my doctorate. So we'll see where life takes me, and I'll be first generation graduating and attending college. So it's a huge accomplishment in my family. So thank you. Thank you.
Normally, this is where there'd be like a lot of hugs and stuff, but
Yeah, and she'd be first in line. That's great. Next, I would like to invite John Alberts up to the podium. And would you like to invite your honored guest, or can we let him have a seat?
I think he can sit there and you can all just stare at him adoringly. So
Okay, we will do that.
I'm here to recognize David Krenz, this Chairperson Green, members of the board. This last winter, I had the opportunity, along with Matt Hillman from Northfield, to nominate David for the MASA Polaris Leadership Award. The Polaris Leadership Award is in recognition of exemplary school leadership by an MASA school member with 20 or more years of administrative experience. The recipient shall have demonstrated the following attributes or characteristics throughout their career: professional courage leading to positive change, creation of a legacy of excellent leadership, a lifelong career contribution of commitment to excellence on behalf of all students, exemplifying positive reasons that a person would choose to practice, fostering innovation and ideas that make a difference for students and the school community, a lifetime of balanced achievement inside and outside of education, contribution to the practice of educational leadership through example and mentoring, exemplary conduct reflecting integrity and bearing emulation, and significant tenure in each position to support district vision and affect positive change. David was selected as this year's Polaris Leadership Award recipient, and well-deserved at that. He'll be receiving the award at this fall's MASA conference, but I wanted to read just a few excerpts from our nomination, if you wouldn't mind. Public schools belong to the community. David M. Krenz, superintendent of the Austin Public Schools, has drilled this mantra into his leadership team. Going back to his first year of teaching high school in math and science in 1977, his storied career has been about service to the community he serves. David is one in a million. He is a brilliant, collaborative, and progressive leader focused on the student experience. His innate sense of humility sets him apart from the self-promotion culture of the social media era. He is clearly deserving of the Minnesota Association of School Administrators Polaris Award. David does not just preach a mantra, but as every effective leader does, he lives it. Within the Austin community, David is a member of numerous service clubs, and his participation does not end at attending the breakfast and lunch meetings. He volunteers hours and hours on behalf of the clubs to serve the community. Whether it is bell ringing for the Salvation Army or selling peanuts in the entryway of the local Hy-Vee, you can count on David to help out. In recognition of this, David was awarded the Rotary Volunteer of the Year Award in 2019. He also has set an expectation that all district administrators also serve on a board and service clubs within the community. David leads by example. Under his leadership, Austin has been successful in all areas of education and operations. Austin has also been a national leader in racial equity, highlighted for the community's work in a February 2020 article in the Star Tribune's Chip Scroggins. Austin, as a community, has been identified nationally as a welcoming community in response to its embrace of immigrant populations. David has had a hand in this with his community support and leadership in Apex Austin, a community group that works to make the community more equity-focused and welcoming for all. As an academic institution, David has embraced a focus on strong core instruction, science, and technology, and ensuring its students have a pathway to success after high school. A signature program has been the Austin Assurance Scholarship Program. This program, founded during David's tenure as superintendent, guarantees every Austin graduate, public or private, a 2-year scholarship at Riverland Community College. The program, true to David's mantra that public schools belong to the community, includes a unique service requirement. And there's much more that I won't read out loud, but because I know David is already cringing and angry. But I will say, just in summary, David Krenz is the correct selection for this year's Polaris Award. He has worked courageously to put students first, understood this symbiotic relationship that schools have with their community, and demonstrated an unwavering commitment to public education. In his over 40 years of service in public education, he has left a legacy that is undeniable and has never wavered in his view of public schools belonging to the community. And it's a legacy that I think we're all thankful to have been a part of, and we could only wish that we could look back on our careers with the same look. So again, I want to recognize David Krenz for his service at Austin Public Schools and his service to public education.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And in every role that I've had, every position I've had, it's all about the team, all about the community support. And here in Austin, bar none, in the multitude of districts I've been in, this community supports what we do each and every day. And that is so critical to the success of any public school, because they do belong to the community. Thank you, John. Thank you to my team. Much appreciated. Thanks.
All right, and we really need to add humility to that list. This is hard for you to accept gratitudes and accolades, but they're well-deserved. So, good. Okay, now we're moving on to delegations. Is there anyone that would like to speak before the board? If so, now is the time for that. Seeing none, we have the superintendent's report. Your turn.
I'm actually going to take this off. It's easier than holding it up. Thank you, Kathy, for those kind words. Chair Green, members of the Austin School Board, members of the Austin community. Just a quick update, because we do have a lot of information this evening. There's a lot of year-end activities that are happening right now. Our transition to our spring sports and activities have been fantastic. I know that the next few weeks will be filled at the elementaries, at our middle school, at our intermediate school, and the high school with those type of end-of-year activities that we weren't able to have last year. And I know that every day that I'm able to be out in the schools to see the excitement and the planning that goes on, it is exciting. It's just nice to be normal for at least 3 or 4 weeks. So that's been gratifying. The last two things. The next is, last week we received an update from the governor, and as always, press conferences lead to interpretations by individuals, because we all hear the same thing, but we all interpret it in a little bit different way. The governor represents not only the public side, but also the private side. And in his address, he was speaking to both sides, but mainly to the private side and on things that could be opened up, things that can't be opened up, and the process to get there. On the public side, we have to follow the guidelines, not just the words. And those guidelines are pretty specific to us, that are set out by the Department of Ed and the Department of Health. They really govern our actions on a day-to-day basis. And one thing that was made perfectly clear after the governor's talk was a memo that was sent to all of us, that schools must, not may, but must continue to follow the state's safe learning plan. What does that mean? That means that all of the guidance, all of the recommendations, and all of the safe distance, social distancing, masking, number of people at events has to remain in place. Now, where we do have a leeway leads us to our ability, and believe me, we spent a lot of hours discussing this. What does that guidance say? And we've interpreted it literally, that we must follow those guidelines through the last teacher-student contact day in our calendar. The last student-teacher contact day in Austin is June 2nd. Therein, we have to follow all the guidelines up until that moment. So that would encompass all of our activities, sports, and prom, homecoming, carnivals at our elementaries, etc. And our people have great plans in place. But one leeway, one element that we've been able to interpret is that June 4th is our graduation. And I think we all passed mathematics, and we know that 4 follows 2. So on June 4th, we're outside that guidance. So we have much more leeway. Now we can follow a different set of rules. And that's what allowed us to make the changes, or I should say, allowed Andrea and her staff to make the changes they did to graduation. If we were still under the same guidelines, it would have been very difficult and most likely illegal to be able to do that. But making those changes, I think, has again made that step to normalcy that I talked about earlier. So I think that's important for everyone to understand. It's not that we don't want to, it's just what are the rules that we have to follow. So talking about graduation, and we're all very excited about being able to allow to change those graduation plans, I'd like to invite Andrea Malo, principal at the high school, to talk about the details. Andrea?
Chairperson Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, I am happy to be here tonight to talk about our graduation plan. A week or so ago, we did send out our initial plan for graduation, and that was to allow families and students to plan for what we thought were going to be the guidelines that we had to plan. I wanted families to be able to make decisions early on so that they'd be ready for it. Last Thursday was an interesting day for us. I spent a lot of time in the superintendent's office with others on the team talking about what does these new guidelines mean. And we did determine that 4 does come after 2, which gives us a little bit more leeway. And so we're really excited that we're going to be able to have all of our students, all of our graduates, be able to attend at one ceremony. We are going to do it June 4th, graduation day at 7:00 p.m. We are going to open up both Knowlton Auditorium and Ovie Bourbon Gym and allow each graduate 4 tickets. This will still allow us an opportunity to do some social distancing. Some of our families still are a little anxious about some of that, so they'll be able to spread it out across 2 different spaces and allow for that distancing to occur if that's something that they desire. So we are going to have one graduation ceremony, June 4th, 7:00, Knowlton Auditorium. I am equally as excited about this. I never like to put restrictions in place, and the last year has been a challenging one as we've had to think about all the different things we've had to say no to, or we have to do it a little bit different. We still have a few activities between now and the end of the school year that we still have to say, we have to put some limits on it, but come June 4th, we're going to get to graduate all together. So super excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And I think that's important to note that throughout the last 14 or 15 months, depending on if you count May as a total month right now, it's been quite a burden to everyone, not just the school people, but our community as a whole, our parents and our students. And what we've tried to do, and you know I've talked about this all along, is we want to get our kids back as safely as possible, and we've done everything we can to make sure that that is taking place. And here's another opportunity for us to make sure that's happening. Even though it's ceremonial, not necessarily educational, it still sends a message that we value you as parents, we value you as a community, and most importantly, we value you as students. So that's my report. Any questions?
You may have gotten a Massa award, but I think she's probably the hero this week.
I agree.
Amen.
Yes.
That's it. And I did have a question, will it be streamed live?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? True, thank you, Mrs. Malo. We know that it's been on your shoulders. This is graduation is your event, so we thank you for all the work you put into it. Okay, now we have school board reports. I'd like to say that on Thursday, Angie and I, along with Elizabeth, Mrs. Malo, and David, went through our interview process for selecting our next student at the school board. We opened it up to sophomores, and this year we had a record 7 applicants. And it's exciting to see the sophomores when they come and apply, because we see the future talent that we've got moving forward, that are stepping forward to be leaders in their class and within their school. And I am pleased to announce that Catherine Diaz will be our next year coming in as our junior representative for student on the school board. So that's it. Anyone else like to share something? Angie?
I attended the Academic Excellence Celebration, and although it looked different, that's Andrea's word for the last year, is different. It looked different. It was still just such a fun event to be at. So fun to see students being honored for all of their hard work over the last several years and see them honor teachers that have inspired them and encouraged them and spoken into their lives over the years. And so it was just an amazing, a beautiful event. So, and I'm not just a school board member, but I'm also a parent of a senior. And I think when that announcement came out on Friday from Mrs. Malo, when everybody received the email, I think I almost felt like the ground underneath me shake here in Austin, because there was such like a collective jumping up and down and excitement from seniors and their parents, and just a lot of joy. And I think it's going to be a fantastic celebration and culmination of a really difficult 14 months for these students. So that is all.
I just want to give Sharon, I don't know if she just stepped up for a second, a shout out for the retirement dinner that most of us attended last week as well. Phenomenal event. I actually leaned over and talked to her and said basically what John said earlier, that I need to check myself to see what I'm accomplishing in my life, because the things that they talked about and had accomplished are magnificent. We've got some great talent amongst our teachers, and as sad as we are to see them go, we're so excited for them in their retirement. So that was a really nice event.
Okay, anyone else?
I'd like to, oops, sorry, go ahead, Evan.
Going back to the retirement party, which was excellent, by the way. The food was great. One of the people that is leaving the district that probably didn't get recognized at that retirement dinner is Mark Raymond, Human Resources Director. He's going to move on to be a superintendent next year. Thank you for your service, Mark. We appreciate you, and I know you didn't get recognized that night, but I'd like to do it publicly, so.
I'm not sure if any of you have had an opportunity to visit our beautiful Packer gym at the high school recently, but I have had that opportunity, and it is absolutely beautiful. There's new doors, there's a new paint job on the walls. The bleachers, they are handicap friendly, wheelchair friendly, and when they are not in use, you can actually see on one side Austin High School, and on one side Austin, and on the other side Packers, and then there's another section that says AHS in big red block letters on the bleachers themselves. So I'd like to just give a little shout out to Brian Beasley for that, for his vision as usual, and his crew for how I'm sure instrumental they were in getting that all to happen as well. So everybody be sure that next chance you have, you take a good look at the Packer gym.
So believe it or not, there's 3 weeks left, including this week till graduation. So can't imagine. I've been waiting this for almost 15 years. So, so there's this website called Get Connected. I don't know if you're familiar about it. So it's a volunteering log where you enter your volunteering hours you do throughout the district, and then Miss Mears will get them approved. And then you turn in your, either it's like a Scarlet Cord log or just a Get Connected log. But overall, there's a scholarship, the Horner Foundation Austin Insurance Scholarships, where students need 50 hours to qualify for the scholarship. There's also more requirements, but I feel like this requirement is one of the easiest ones. For example, I've been volunteering since 5th grade, so I mean, it didn't count my hours, but I have, not a brag, but 265 hours. It's okay. Not bad. Thank you. So I feel like that's, as I said, one of the easier requirements, also your GPA. For prom and Grand March, well, mostly Grand March because we're not going to have a dance. It's going to take place this Saturday, May 15th. I think the Grand March is, I can't remember, between 4 or till 7. Can't remember. I have a really bad memory. I'm getting old. So for post-prom, it's going to take place at Westcott for seniors, and it's a movie night. So they were having this little debate, either if 50 tickets or more weren't sold by Friday or today, it would be open for juniors, but I haven't heard anything, so good thing it's for seniors only. So also, a few months ago, I mentioned about Avid stalls. We finally got them approved. 2 Avid members and I set up a presentation for administration and finally got them approved. There's some requirements to the Avid stalls. So as one of them is the 50 hours of volunteering too. So conferences took place last week, and then ACTs for juniors took in the last week of April. So pretty little short overall this month. Any questions? Okay. Oh, yeah. So once again, I want to thank the board for giving me this opportunity of being a student rep. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, principals report. Jill Rowley, welcome.
All right. Chairperson Green, Superintendent Krenz, and members of the school board, I'm here to present the elementary principal reports. On behalf of David Wolf and the staff of Nevlin Elementary School, at Nevlin, our mission is to welcome, learn, support, and celebrate. This month, Nevlin staff went through the strategic planning process to recognize ways in which we welcome, learn, support, and celebrate as a school. 2, we received training to implement Launch, a Project Lead the Way science program Nevlin has been very proud of and successful with for several years in classrooms next year. This month, we supported our Knights throughout the MCA testing by providing encouragement and environments to do their best, planting a tree in tribute of the staff for their perseverance through 2020, getting those ready to move on to Holton by communicating with the staff there and planning classroom visits for 4th graders to gain more information on the transition, and inviting guest speaker Tim Ruzek, who came to support students' understanding of keeping the environment clean. This month, we celebrated nights that demonstrated honesty. Classrooms read books, completed activities, and held discussions about this character trait. Celebrated our planet. We celebrated Earth Week with fun dress-up days. Classes also cleaned up neighborhood areas that surround our building. Met building-wide expectations with an indoor Minnesota spring-friendly beach day. And celebrated all accomplishments this year. Leadership committees at Nevlin have been busy preparing ways to celebrate this school year that was full of uncertainty and being able to spend it together in person for most of the year. At Nevlin, our goal is every night, every day. And at Sumner is just finishing up our MCA testing while our end-of-the-year benchmark assessments begin. We will use the data to help create class lists as well as preparing intervention groups to support the school year. Staff will begin training for our new reading curriculum this May, which will help the transition to new curriculum once the new year starts in July. Part of our Sumner PD during May included the viewing of the movie Black Boys in an effort to gain knowledge on how to best support our students and increase their engagement in school. End of the year plans are underway as staff are being creative with finding ways to enjoy the last few weeks of school in COVID year. And at Southgate, the Southgate site leadership team has been working since February with building leadership and Alana Peterson from our partnership with the University of Minnesota's LTML to engage in a strategic planning process rich with learning from our changes over the last year and an inclusive lens of equity and systemic oppression. This process has been more representative of our teacher expertise, staff focus group feedback, student data, and feedback from families. We have enjoyed the process, conversations, and ability to engage in rethinking how we do business. Our site plan will include a focus on maximizing instructional time and collaboration with services in meeting student needs, proactively attending to our students' social and emotional needs, and focusing our efforts in culturally responsive learning partnerships with families. Our Tree Trust Day is scheduled for Friday, May 14th. Students will be learning about our school grounds and taking part in tidying them for the summer. Mulching, weeding, and caring for our plants will be the focus of our energy, and learning how to be better stewards of our great earth. Finally, our PTC has been a remarkable support to our staff and students this year. They have been providing new opportunities for staff to engage with kids and are also putting on a fantastic schoolyard bash at the end of May. Our students will have a wonderful opportunity to participate in some fun with their class in a safe way right on our school grounds. And then Banfield, we were able to finish both in-person and distance learners testing with MCA on time. Scantron and FastBridge testing are currently scheduled and taking place. Teachers will finish their book study on phonics this Wednesday and devote the remaining staff development time to unpacking and learning about the new reading curriculum. Thanks to Dewey Shara and Blake Henley from IJ Holton for coming over to Banfield to give our fourth graders an orientation preview of what to expect in fifth grade. Students and staff have been working on preparing the garden for a planting season after having that lay dormant the last year. We are looking to make a couple of improvements this spring and plant flowers, natural prairie grasses, as well as vegetables. It is always interesting to see what is harvested come September. Finally, as staff, we have made alterations and adaptations to our year-end activities that meet the guidelines still in place, so our students will have closure to the year at Banfield. And then last but not least, Woodson. This year has been one to remember in history, but instead of thinking about this year in a lens of loss, I would like to reflect on how our Woodson family overcame challenges and what we learned during this most unusual year. First, we learned just how flexible we can be when it comes to keeping our critters safe and in person. It was common to hear our teachers ask, what do we need to do to keep our littlest learners in person? We want them here with us. Our school family recognized the importance of our littlest learners in person, and we're willing to go to great lengths to provide them just that. A few examples of that work were implementing a cohort model, modifying the start to our school day, eating in the classroom versus the cafeteria, endless cleaning protocols, and then even more cleaning protocols to provide student play-based learning opportunities. We developed new virtual approaches to traditions like our gratitude feast, Polar Express, our family engagement events, and school-wide assemblies to ensure our students still have those nostalgic memories to take with them from their kindergarten year. In fact, on May 28th, we have designed a safe, fun day for our critters to celebrate a terrific year together. Our entire school family has learned and implemented new ways of safely educating our students. In all honesty, and there might be a little trauma associated with the word pivot, as we used it quite often to announce more change. But some things don't change. Even during a pandemic, we remained laser focused on loving our students and doing everything possible to help them learn and grow despite circumstances. Our purpose at Woodson is stronger than ever, and by the sounds of it, this is true for most sites. So if anything, I'd like to think of this year as a testament to all the incredible staff at APS. Thank you for working endless hours and making great sacrifices to better serve our students. And we just had the miraculous event of life at Woodson today. We had a chick hatch. So another miracle of life moment at Woodson, but any questions? Yeah, thank you. Oh, I know, right? It's very exciting.
Thank you. Superintendent Krenz, Chairperson Green, members of the board, I'm here to present the secondary reports. We will start with IJ Holton. This month, we will complete our MCA testing for reading, math, and science. To date, we have over 150 opt-out of testing. Almost half of those students were distance learners. Starting this week, we'll begin Scantron testing in math and reading. We have also been meeting with each elementary school to discuss the transition with their students. These meetings are incredibly important to ensure a smooth transition and placement into the correct instructional settings. The information the teachers give us is hugely beneficial. 2 weeks ago, we had our parent meeting of the new Pi Academy Holton site. The meeting went very well, and so far, we have well over half of the families agreeing to send their child to the Pi Academy at Holton next year. We also hired 2 incredible teachers for the academy, Melissa Corfage and Hannah Blumenshine. Starting this week, Mr. Henley and Mr. Shara will be meeting with each 4th grade classroom to discuss the 4th graders' transition to Holton and answer any questions students may have. We honored 3 retirees this year, Norma Olson, Kathy Schulstead, and Michael Veldman. For the end of the year, Dave Brown has put together the Holton Olympics for the last 2 days of school. Each homeroom will be competing separately in COVID-friendly events to decide the Holton Olympic champion from both 5th and 6th grades. That's it from Holton. All right, on to Ellis. We at Ellis hopes this reaches all of you in the middle of a wonderful May. Students have just finished their MCA testing in both 7th and 8th grade and have started taking the spring Scantron assessments this week. A huge thank you goes to Jessica Stanley, Ryan Barnick, Nate Radosovsky, and Wyatt DeWild for the above and beyond efforts in reaching all of our elected distance learning students and supporting their taking of the MCA tests on Wednesdays. As we are going to continue with a block schedule for the 2021-22 school year, Alice will be engaging in professional development to help us learn how to continue to teach and engage middle schoolers in this model. This Wednesday, Jack Berkemeyer will be joining our staff virtually to provide resources to develop our toolbox for structuring the longer class periods next year. During the month, we have offered listening sessions to families in regards to how the fall will look for Ellis scholars and what information will be helpful for families. Staff will also participate in these listening sessions this week, and information will be used to enhance our fall plans and site plan. Ellis scholars, families, and staff would like to thank the board for their support, words of support, and visibility in our school. We appreciate you. Okay, and the high school. We are partnering with Austin Aspires to host our first Student Data Summit. Last week and this week, we invited 4 Connect classes, 1 from each grade, to provide some feedback and insight. We met with both Austin and Packer hybrid students. Day 1, we asked students to share their perception data about the advantages and challenges of being a student at Austin High School. Day 2, that's today and Thursday of this week, Corey Haugen presented data about grades, student engagement, and connections at school. We asked students to give us their insights about this data. We will share the information we gathered with staff. Our students are very insightful and have a lot to share with us about their experience, and we appreciate their time and thoughtfulness. Our site leadership team had the opportunity this year to review our student handbook. A lot of time went into updating the document to reflect our current practices. It had become a document where many things got added over time but not really edited. We appreciate the efforts of the team and will share more later in our meeting tonight. We are busy planning for spring events. We will be hosting several events over the next couple of weeks, including prom, post-prom, coronation, Austin Air Show, and graduation. We will need to continue to follow the Safe Learning Plan through June 2nd, so this will still place limits on how we can host some of these events. We were able to update our graduation plan as that falls outside of that window of time. We are excited to host our senior graduates with 4 guests, each at our graduation ceremony on June 4th in Knowlton Auditorium. And the last report is for our ALC. In the month of April, students in the ALC completed 49 semester courses in our self-paced program and another 38 quarter credit courses in direct instruction math. Approval came in from the state on Friday, April 30th, that the application for the Austin Online program was approved for grades 6 through 12. We are working now on getting students signed up for next fall. Students are working hard, and we have many students working on their last assignments for graduation. 2 of those have already turned 21 and have worked tirelessly toward their diploma rather than get their GED. Additionally, we had 2 students who had been out of school for more than 6 months re-enroll to start working toward their diploma. The Early Middle College program has its first cohort of LPN students who will be taking their AccuPlacer this week and enrolling in their CNA class this summer at Riverland. In addition, new pathways have been submitted to Riverland for approval in emergency medicine, 911 dispatch, residential construction, and radiography. We are looking into transportation options to Albert Lea to be able to offer automotive technology as well. Finally, 2 AALC students participated in the statewide Spring Events Conference last week. The team of Alania Aguilera and Nadia Evans earned 4th place with their video promotion project and both placed in the top 8 for public speaking. Nadia got 6th place and Alania got 2nd. We are very proud of them. And that does it for the secondary. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you.
No?
You've
Okay.
had a strong end of the year. Okay. John Alberts, Educational Services.
Chairperson Green, members of the board, Superintendent Krenz, I just have a few items on which I would like to report. We have just had a team complete the second 2 days of a 4-day training on leading equity-focused initiatives with the Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center, the federally supported center that we're partnering with on our equity work. The purpose of this training was to learn how to support equity initiatives, how to support the people who are doing the work, and how to disrupt microaggressions. Christy Beckman, Edwina Harder, Lynn Heeman, and myself were the team from Austin who completed this training. A second group from Austin has been involved in the Equity-Oriented Strategic Planning Academy. We've had the first 2 days of training and have been spending several meetings since working on a draft of our plan before our final training in June. I want to take a minute and thank Ryan Barnick, Amy Thusen, Janie Gibson, and Cece Kroc on their efforts on this important work. We have spent several hours working together outside of that training on developing the start of our district strategic plan that we hope to share with the board at a later date. Just also a reminder to you all, as well as the Austin community, that the Hormel Foundation Gifted and Talented Symposium is happening virtually this year, June 15th to the 17th. Again, because it's virtual, you can literally attend from anywhere you have an internet connection, so feel free. Thanks to the foundation, any Austin parent or staff member may attend at no cost. Go to gtsymposium.org for more information and to register. And again, you'll have to spell symposium in order to get to the symposium. Finally, I want to thank all members of the district team who reviewed English Language Arts curriculum for grades K-4 over the last couple of years. We're moving ahead with the committee's recommendation of Benchmark Advanced to be implemented during the academic year, and we're currently working on the purchase of the curriculum. Special thanks to Edwina Harder for her incredible guidance in facilitating and leading the work of this committee. We're really looking forward to seeing that implemented next academic year. With that, I'm open to any questions, including how to spell symposium.
All righty. And just if you do register as an Austin community member, there is a deposit that you put down to make sure that you actually, because your tuition would be paid from the foundation, so they want to make sure you actually show up, and in this case, tune in. So,
Yep. So if it's a check, we won't cash it. If it's cash, well, good luck.
and Barb Sperling, you can contact her for that. So, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Lawhead from the Community Learning Center. Welcome.
Superintendent Krenz, Chair Green, and members of the school board, I am pleased to share a report from Community Ed with you this evening. Our Early Childhood Advisory Council met during the month of April. Our special guest was Children's Dental Health. They shared important information with our parents about keeping their children's teeth clean and their gums healthy, and answered a variety of questions. Christy Beckman enjoyed the presentation so much that she signed them up to present to her success coaches as well. In addition, Children's Dental Health came to the CLC this spring, and they were able to do cleanings, sealants, and x-rays, portable x-rays for over 30 students who qualified for this treatment. So that's a game changer for some of our littles. So we're really grateful for Children's Dental Health, who now have a place here in Austin, who are doing preventative care in the same building as the Welcome Center and SEMCAC. So we're really excited about that for our community. I also wanted to say thank you to our early childhood screening team, including Amy Getty, Bronwyn Brennan, Lori Coughlin, and Monica Halverson. We've screened over 200-plus students this year using our COVID-friendly online screening process. This process helps identify students who perhaps wanted preschool and didn't have a chance to sign up, getting them connected with preschools either with us or within the community, and identifying some early needs that students have and getting them assessed for support through our school district. We're delighted to be moving back to in-person screening later this summer, but I'm really thankful for my creative team who found a successful and safe way to screen so many students. Finally, through a collaboration with Riverland Community College this year, we were able to co-teach some developmental education bridges classes. I'm delighted to tell you that before our collaboration, they had a 50% pass rate for these courses. After our collaboration, they had a 95% pass rate for the students. These are extraordinary results, and we look forward to continuing this partnership in the future. That's my report. What questions do you have?
Thank you. And now we have Sherry Wilrott with Special Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Chairperson Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board. The Special Education Advisory Council did not meet in May due to the speaker canceling at the last minute. However, the Regional Community Transition Interagency Committee did meet on May 5th. The main point that they discussed is a new program through the Department of Employment and Economic Development, which will actually pay for teachers to go back and get their work-based learning coordinator's license. This is especially applicable to us because that is one of the positions we had to fill this year. So I'm pleased to say that the teacher we hired to fill that role will be able to use this program to go back and obtain the appropriate licensure. That's a program that assists students at the high school level with disabilities in accessing work experiences in the community. So a very important transition activity for us. Speaking of hiring, as you know, that's always a busy activity for us this time of year. I'm pleased to announce in Special Services, we have filled many of our positions already. In addition to that work experience coordinator, we've hired 2 occupational therapists, 4 special education teachers, a school psychologist, a school counselor, and a speech clinician. So a lot of those are very difficult positions to fill, and we're really pleased to have those in place. I'm also working on contracts for a physical therapist and a teacher of blind and visual impairments, and just a few positions left to fill, so we're in good shape. Finally, I was just going to mention another activity we've been busy with is COVID recovery services or consideration of COVID recovery services. This is some new guidance from the Minnesota Department of Education and also is impending legislation, which requires IEP teams to consider if recovery services are needed for students with disabilities due to the impacts of COVID. So our teachers are busy consulting with their IEP teams to determine this. Some of the ways we could implement recovery services include extended school year services for those students that qualify, participation in general education summer school with or without supports, and increased IEP services for the following year. And some students won't require recovery services at all, but all teams must consider them. That is my report. Do you have any questions? Thanks.
Chair Green, Superintendent Krenz, and members of the board, I have a few items for your review this evening from the Department of Research Evaluation Assessment. First of all, as you heard in all the principal reports, teachers and students have been working very hard throughout the month of April and May to complete their statewide accountability assessments. Final results from the spring 2021 assessment season will be available later this summer, and we'll share those with you as we meet into the fall. As of 3 p.m. today, 4,876 assessments have been completed. The testing window, as you know, has been extended through May 21st, so there is still about a 2-week window yet to complete some of those tests. But as far as the testing has gone this year, it's been very smooth, both technically and administratively, and that's due in part to all the student, staff, and administration working very hard and diligently to make sure that we administer those tests with great fidelity, and we've survived another statewide testing season. You also heard in the principal reports that starting today, the spring 2021, I'm having a hard time saying that number tonight, 2021. Benchmarking is underway. That includes our Scantron Performance Series, computer adaptive tests in both reading and math, our Fast Bridge Learning Assessments, and our Mondo Reading Assessments for grades K through 8 and select high school students. This window will continue through Friday, May 28th. Results from this data, results and data from this test administration will be used to generate the year-long growth Z-scores for students, staff, and classrooms, and will also be used for the scheduling process for the 21-22 school year. And finally, as I just alluded to, we're working diligently to prepare for the 21-22 school year. For the second year, Austin Public Schools will be using the Infinite Campus online registration system to collect annual updates and new kindergarten and preschool enrollments. Through the campus parent portal applications, parents will be able to simply click on online registration and follow the prompts to update information and complete forms for the 21-22 school year. Families should watch for more information coming in early June, as the annual renewal system will be opening on June 14th, 2021. Families will also be able to get technical and language support throughout the summer through the enrollment office and through other opportunities that will be outlined in those future communications. And with that, that concludes my report. Any questions?
Corey, when they have the registration material, will there be the free and reduced lunch form within that process?
Yes, there's links to it. However, the timing isn't always optimal. The free and reduced lunch form, based on the timeline of when MDE releases that, we need to get our online registration process going sooner than when they actually release for that first part of that for our 45-15 calendars. So there's always a little bit of a catch-up with that. But as soon as the state releases that form, it's part of that process.
Could we add a question to our general form saying, you know, do you qualify, just so that we know who to target if the form isn't embedded in this thing?
I mean, we actually have that data from previous years of qualifications, so we can, those are the students that we target. If we don't get those forms in, I'd have to investigate whether or not we could actually put a question in there on that particular piece without it being the specific statewide form.
Okay, thank you.
This was actually a conversation we just recently had too within the group, because we had the concern about making sure, especially with the free lunch, you know, get things filled out. One of the things we were talking about was Mark, myself, and Lori, is that this last year, in particular because of COVID, we usually do some support, like at the library, for people that fill out all their paperwork and get enrolled and things like that. And that was something we weren't able to do this last year, so we're hopeful, and I've got a note that have a conversation with Christy to set that back up again for this year, so that hopefully, last year we really wanted to do it too because we transitioned over to that online registration process, because in the past we've used that to support people pre-mass registration. So again, we got all year running to try to figure out how to make sure that we get those things filled out as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, in addition, last year our enrollment office itself was limited access, and this year that's much more open and available for families to come through and access those supports, so.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you.
Okay, before us we have a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Peggy motioned, is there a second?
Second.
Angie second, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under efficient and effective operations, request approval of Austin High School roofing bids. Director of Buildings and Grounds, Brian Beasley. Welcome.
Superintendent Krenz, Chairman Green, members of the board. First, I want to say publicly to David, thank you for being, I think everyone knows we talk about light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're starting to see that. This has been one of the toughest journeys in years I've ever had in construction and maintaining this. And one of the things I always remember David with is when we were going through this, we were handing out food to families in this community. Dave was behind the scenes putting those tables, that food together. He had all of us there, but that's a true leader for this community and for the students to be out there feeding us in the moment of need and keeping us focused. So thanks for that, David, and taking all this burden on your shoulders, because nobody else would know what that would feel like. So we put out and solicited for bids this year. We're gearing up for some improvements. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 contractors that came in for our Garland built-up roof over Knowlton. I'm asking that the board approve. Flynn Midwest, we had a budget originally set for $550. We were quite surprised that that came in low. So we're going to go ahead and move ahead with those add alternates for the relief hoods while we have a crane in place. My suggestion is that we move forward with this.
My computer died, so I can't access it, and some of it was kind of dark viz, I couldn't really.
Yes, sir.
It seemed to me that there were 3 of them that were pretty much consistently about the same.
Yep.
And then Midwest came in appreciably less than the other 3.
Mhm.
Can you explain, I mean, I don't know if you have to take a little bit, or.
So I've always expressed to David is we can always reject a bid. We set a budget, and if we're too high, we have no problem with reducing it. When we see it come in that low, it's probably the nature of the beast right now. You see a lot of construction where the materials are going up and they're canceling jobs. Next year's going to be a whole different story. I've had that discussion with Lori, but this year they were out of work, so that's why we got a good bid. If that makes sense to you.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Okay, overview and request approval of 2021 amended budget. Executive Director of Finance and Operation, Lori Volz, welcome.
Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for your consideration would be the approval of the current year amended budget. This budget reflects basically all final updates on federal grants, all these unique federal ESSER grants, et cetera, that have been available to us this year. Also, trying to maximize our costs through utilizing the grants to help the bottom line. And this amended budget on the unassigned general fund, that's where our main operations are for the general fund. And you'll see that we are projected to be deficit spending about $660,000, which is an improvement from the last amended budget I brought to you, which was about a deficit spending about $1 million. So basically have done all I can do to help the bottom line of this budget. And of course, there's, until we get our final, final aids on such things as our final student counts, there's still some variables that could come into play that could slightly improve this financial picture for this current year. But this is giving us a clear picture then how we are coming through this year, and it sets the stage as we're planning for next year's budget. So I do ask approval of this amended budget as presented.
Do we have a motion to approve the amended budget?
So move.
Okay, Don, motion, is there a second?
I second.
Katie, second, any discussion?
Just one comment. When Lori says it's about all she can do, I'll guarantee you there's more she will be doing. That's the way she is.
All right, Chair. Oh, okay.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now request approval of future budget amendments in relation to grant resolutions.
All right. Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board. I recommend this additional language regarding future amendments, as we will have final tweaks to these federal grants or other MDE grants from now to June 30th. And so this just covers that formal approval through this motion.
Motion for the language is there. Second motion, second. CC second to that. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we have a request for approval of 21-22 health insurance rates. Lori Volz.
Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the school board, for your consideration would be approving the great news of our health insurance bid results. The district is required to go through what's called Health Insurance Transparency Act bid process. Every couple years, there's a very detailed timeline for that we have to comply with. We went through that bid process, received 4 bids from various TPAs, third-party administrators, or reinsurance carriers, and our current carrier, or current TPA, had the best bid. And it's important also the best bid that aligned with our current plan structure. We had representatives of the AEA there at the bid opening. As per the statute, that's one of the requirements that we invite them to attend, and they did attend. And so we basically have reviewed the pricing. Our consultants, IntelliSense, did a thorough review of the pricing so that our current provider, Blue Link, would be who we are recommending for approval. The great news on this is that it's a 0% increase on all our plans, which is such tremendous good news. Just to give you an idea, a little background of why it is we are so fortunate to have a 0% increase in our premiums is due to the pandemic, for example, a lot of elective surgeries weren't happening for many months. And so obviously that's a big cost-saving reality on our health plan. Now, yes, some of those elective surgeries then were happening after, that was allowed again, but overall, it certainly did improve as a cost-effective measure on our overall costs on the health plan. And so I do recommend approving Blue Link and a renewal at a 0% increase for health insurance.
Do I have a motion to approve the health insurance rates? Motion from Evan? Yep. Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Katie seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Request approval of 21-22 dental insurance rates. Lori Bowles.
Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, another piece of good news on the dental insurance. This is just a regular renewal. It is a self-insured plan, and it's a 0%. Delta Dental is the TPA for that dental insurance, and so I recommend the renewal at a 0% increase.
Second. Can I just ask a question? I looked at the insurance rates and how they've moved over the last 7 years or so. Am I correct in recollecting that the dental insurance premiums have gone up $0 in the last 6-7 years?
Right, it's been many years since it's made any change. So fortunately there, it's just, we have overall really good claims management, and so we're fortunate we don't have to have it increase, so, yep.
That's neat.
That helps.
Yep, thank you very much.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Request approval of donations. Lori Bowles.
Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for your consideration would be accepting these donations as listed. Austin Youth Basketball Fast Break Club, $1,500. This is for AHS Athletic Department's Huddle software program. Greg and Amy Baskin, $150 for Southgate Elementary, donation in memory of student Adelia Dundas. Michael Leathers family, $1,000 for the REACH program, donation in memory of Michael Leathers from his grandmother Lynn, Diane, David, and Paul. Zanta, 25 new books, 3 titles valued at $296. Recipient APS Libraries and Media Centers, books that highlight and empower girls. And that is our listing of donations.
May I have a motion to approve donations? Make a motion. Is there a second? Second. Andrew seconds. Any discussion? approval audit engagement agreement for 2021 audit. Lori Vogt.
Chairman Green, Superintendent Krenz, members of the board, for your consideration would be approval of the audit engagement with Clifton Larson Allen, who's been our longtime auditors, and their quote that they provided us reflects about a 3% increase, which is pretty standard. And also just want to point out there will be additional audit burdens, I'll just say, with the huge federal dollars and the federal grants will drive additional audit measures, as all districts will be experiencing the same thing. So overall, I think it's a really good proposal.
Do I have a motion to approve the audit for 2021?
I'll make that motion.
Don made the motion. Is there a second? Cece seconds that motion. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question. So do audits work in the same way, like when we go out for maintenance bids? Do we have to get bids and take the lowest bid, or do we have the authority to pick?
We have the authority to pick. Many districts don't necessarily go out for bid. They may go out for bid if for some reason they are not 100% happy maybe with the speed of the audit, or if there's some reason they would want to go through a bid process. And some districts do go through an RFP process to search for a new audit firm. You know, the benefit of keeping the same audit firm, as long as you're happy with their services and the timeliness of them completing your audit, is that they have so many years of history of their financial data. And there's a lot of history there. When you do switch auditors, it is quite a transition, and data has to be transferred to that new auditing firm. It's quite a process, but so to answer your question, it's not required to change and go through a bid process, but it is an option.
I know we're very happy with it. It was more a question of just curiosity.
Sure.
Thank you.
Angie, that's a very good question, though. Statute pretty much lays out what we have to go for competitive bids, what we can do to negotiate a contract, and things that we can just hire for consulting services, those sort of things. So when you have something like this, or even architectural firms, those sort of things, where you rely on a certain type of expertise, you have the option to negotiate a contract with those kind of organizations.
Okay. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. Under High Student Achievement, overview and request approval of the 2021 Summer School Handbook. Coordinators Rebecca Dale, Michelle Baker, and Dewey Shara. And it's Dewey Shara.
Chairperson Green,
Hey.
Superintendent Krenz, we've put summer school together in a very short notice. We usually do this in January and February, but these incredible leaders have whipped this together, and we've got an incredible program. So I'd like to introduce you to our secondary leader, Rebecca Dio, and our elementary leader, Michelle Baker, and they're going to talk to you about some of the changes in our handbook.
Thank you for having us here tonight. The handbook that we submitted is very similar to the handbook you've approved in the past, so we're just going to highlight some of the changes. The dates this year are June 15th through August 5th, and that's following the same schedule that was followed in 2019. So it's 3 days a week throughout the whole summer. You'll notice that it's broken down into 2 sessions. That does not impact student enrollment, but that was offered for staff applying so that they could do just session 1, just session 2, or both sessions.
Thank you for having us. We did do it a little different this year. This time, we asked how many staff were available, and then what we did is we filled those sections with the amount of staff we had. So that was a little bit different than what we've done in the past. And then we're still working on making sure we get that parent confirmation, and then we'll start sending out the data to our families. And then lastly, you want to go over COVID.
Oh, yep. So the COVID precautions or procedures on the back side of the handbook are very similar to what the elementary sites have been following all school year long, but we have been working with Allison Gunderson, and we will continue to do so to make sure we're meeting all requirements
from the state. Are there any questions?
So in regards to the COVID protocols, whatever, is there a chance that they may change because of what went on last week?
We will follow the guidance of Allison Gunderson on that. I can't speak to that at the moment.
Good call, good call. Okay. Is that it then?
That's all we have for you.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the summer school handbook? Don motioned, Angie second. Any discussion?
Yeah, but is there any additional state or federal dollars that are going to summer school because of how students have been impacted? Are there additional dollars being provided by the state or federal government for summer school?
There are some dollars, not a whole lot. I think the state is designated right now about $4 per student. At the federal level, there's still some discussions on how the money can be used, but a lot of it that is there in the ESSER monies can be spread, including summer school. The state still is debating some possibilities of more money for our summer programs. The problem is, as we've stressed to our legislators, we needed to know this back in January and February. It's a little late for our planning. But what we're hoping now, working with MDE, to get the money, then allow us to utilize for extra help during the school year or for the summer of 2022. It's, the legislative process, so we're struggling with that.
Aren't you glad Mr. Krenz answered that question? Thank you, gals.
One thing that I would mention, though, is that while we have an incredible summer school opportunity here, there's many other opportunities, and so E-Cubed is also going to be happening again this year during the summertime, so that's another good opportunity for students. And then working with Austin Aspires, we put together a catalog that's being shared through social media and other places of all the summer experiences by category. And so if people are looking for STEM events or arts events for their children, it's a one-stop shop for people to look. So there's all sorts of reasons why and interest in summer programming outside of even just what we offer. And so we're trying to be helpful to parents so that they have a full menu of opportunities. So.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
In terms of the COVID, I think it's probably a good guess, Kathy, it probably will change. But right now, this is the direction we've been told that we need to follow. So we'll adjust as we can on the fly, as we've tried to throughout the year.
Okay,
On that line, the guidance for schools are under a safe opening plan at the moment, as David indicated earlier this evening. That guidance will expire on June 2nd, and so we'll move forward under a separate set of guidance that will parallel where the rest of the state of Minnesota and businesses will operate as well. That guidance can be found on the Minnesota Department of Health's website, and it's being updated on the fly as it goes. It does not include guidance for schools at the moment, but we have been directed to look there for guidance as we move closer to the summer until there is specific guidance for summer schools. So I think they're hedging slightly that they might not get it out in time. If they don't, we have to fall underneath the guidance that all of the businesses in the state of Minnesota do. And that guidance has already been posted and is updated almost weekly.
Okay, Dewey Shara?
So we're going to follow, we've chosen to follow elementary guidelines, so our students will be face-to-face. They'll have masks. We'll eat in the classroom, breakfast and lunch, as we've been doing all year. And the students will stay in one homeroom with one teacher. They can still do activities. So actually, we're not restricted too much. That's kind of how we're existing right now. So we feel in that model, we can adapt to anything that the state throws at us.
Thank you. Okay, further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Request approval of changes to the 21-22 elementary handbook. Woodson Principal Jill Rowley will report. This is an action item.
Chairperson Green, Superintendent Krenz, and members of the school board, on behalf of Sheila Berger, I will be requesting approval to changes to the 2021-22 elementary handbook. At this time, if you could please reference the handout with these proposed changes. After consulting with the leadership of Kids Corner, They made the following additions, highlighted in yellow on that handout, as well as removed some items, and those items have been crossed off on this document with a strike through. These changes describe with more accuracy the important information about this programming. So if you'd like to take just a second to look at or review those changes on that document. And then in addition, changes were made to dress code to be more inclusive to our student body and to offer more consistency across K-12 programming. And so you'll notice information being removed with, again, that strike through, and then additional information highlighted in yellow, and that would be under dress code.
I just have one question. So under the student, it doesn't include dresses? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I found it, my partner in crime.
Right.
Thank you.
It's true, though. I mean, it's kind of both, so.
Okay, is that it then for the changes?
Yep.
Do I have a motion to approve the changes as stated?
So moved.
Peggy's second, or Peggy's motion, Cece's second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Request approval of changes to the 21-22 Ellis Middle School agenda, Appendix 13D, Dewey Shara for Ryan Barnick. This is an action item.
All right, so I'm here for Mr. Barnick, and there are very few changes to the Ellis Handbook. So if you're taking a look at that, the cover will change, the date will change on the cover, and they'll have a different logo. On page 3, obviously, the table of contents will change slightly. Page 4, the 2021 APS calendar will be there. That would be a new calendar. On page 5, the current contact information for counselors will be altered slightly. And then on page 6, the 2021 athletic dates will appear. And on page 10, we're going to delete the existing code requirements, and this is going to be the exact same for Ellis and for IJ. And here's what the dress code will state. It will state that students must wear a top, examples shirt, blouse, sweater, sweatshirt, tank, etc., a bottom, pants, shorts, skirt, dress, etc., and they must wear footwear. As detailed in School Board Policy 504, students may not wear attire that intentionally shows private parts, presents a health or safety hazard, and/or would contribute to a hostile or intimidating school environment. That will be the exact same dress code for Ellis, for IJ, and I believe at the high school as well, similar, okay? That's probably the biggest change. And then on page 16, Ellis will be deleting the rubric 4, and I'm sorry, but I didn't bring my glasses, so I had to actually get this off my phone. So they're going to be deleting the grading for learning rubric having to do with student behavior grades or learning grades. They're going to be piloting an experiment with that. They're changing that a little bit and piloting it. So those would be the changes to the Ellis Handbook. If you have any questions and I can't answer them, I'm happy to make up something very interesting.
What you would like to see happen.
At IJ Ellis and the high school, do you have a lot of dress code violations, or is it a minor thing?
We really don't. Here's where you run into problems. The more rules you have about dress, the more time you spend enforcing them with what kinds of consequences. The dress code as we've proposed it here gives us plenty of room to be safe and also to address specific issues as they arise. So this really works well for us too. And when you're talking about hats and when you're talking about hoods and hoodies, it can get really complicated, and we've simplified that.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Don? Don motions, Peggy seconds, discussion?
You're doing a lot of extra duty tonight.
Oh, I'm sure Jess will take care of me, no problem.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
And you need the IJ handbook too?
Oh, did I? Don't mind me. Okay.
Yep. We
Changes
just have
to
a-
the IJ
Yep.
Holton.
And we have very few
Oh.
significant
Totally
changes,
missed
so this will take seconds. So on page 5, we just have altered our dismissal time and our coming and going times to reflect the tiered busing. One change is, right now, we're allowing students in the building at 7:15, I should say, in a normal school year. We are going to move that to 7:40. We've done that this year with tremendous success. This allows us to have that library worker work after school and, not extend her contract, but shift it. And we found that with parent communications, it's way more beneficial to have her after school than early like that. This has been working, so we're just changing that. On page 6, we have had some issues with kind of the wording of our tardiness and our so we've changed the wording. Tardiness is disrespectful and disruptive to the learning environment. We've changed that to be less aggressive, right? We don't want to sound nasty in some of those things, and it has caused issues. Birthday and classroom treats, no birthday and classroom treats, unfortunately. Used to be the principal gets his cut, you could have as many as you want. We had to change that too, so. On page 8, we're going to remove a picture, and then you'll also see that the dress code discussions that I just talked to you about, student has to have a top, bottom footwear, and then we detail the board policy. Field trips, we're removing parts about behavior contract. So in the past, if students were having behavior issues, they had to sign a contract in order to go to a field trip. That doesn't make sense because field trips are part of the curriculum. Every student gets to go. If we have an issue at the field trip, we've got things in place to take care of that. But field trips are part of the learning. We're not going to restrict that, okay? Page 10, remove the term student organization. Page 11, devices remain at school unless approved by building administration. That's on page 11. On page 12, transportation of devices in a required backpack is removed. So students, we used to have very restrictive policies about the type of backpack students had for their laptops, and we found that just hasn't been an issue. Students come with appropriate backpacks, they're taking care of them. If laptops have been damaged, they haven't been damaged because they've been in the backpack. Okay? And it also caused quite a few questions for parents and concerns with fees and the cost of a backpack, so that was just something we thought we could take out. Page 13, we're going to remove academic consequences similar to those applicable to forgotten or incomplete work will be enforced, so we've removed that language. So just a couple of language issues. The big change was in the dress policy.
Excellent. So do I have a motion to approve the changes to the I.J. Holton Student Handbook?
So moved.
Katie motioned. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Cece seconded that. Any discussion? I thank you for getting my attention.
Thank
I
you.
don't know what happened. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next, request approval of changes to the 21-22 Austin High School student agenda. Assistant Principal Karen Dunbar will present. Hello again.
Hello again. Chairperson Green, Superintendent Krenz, and members of the board. Thank you for listening to our changes. So as Andrea said, and I mentioned also, we went through quite an extensive kind of journey this year with this. I had a group in the summer, that group of teachers that we were working with, and just kind of on the organization of the handbook and some of the wording and those types of things. And so we worked through that, and then our site leadership team and a group of teachers from there, we worked on it together to come up with some of the changes. I'll highlight some of what we have. It's really not a lot of big changes to the content. Most of it had to do more with the organization, the format, the grammar. And we are going to really just an online version primarily for next year, and so we wanted to make sure it's clean and understandable to everybody. Let's see, so Andrea has a new letter that highlights some things for the year. We had changes in the faculty emails. We are including the strategic roadmap where we have some changes. So our building hours this year are, we open the building at 8:15, and then the school day starts at 8:30, and then the school day ends at 3:30, and really we're fortunate, at least this year, that our buses come right away for our students. Let's see, and next year, so let me back up. This year, we have a block schedule. We tried that because of our hybrid learning or distance learning. Having less classes at a time seems to have worked really well for our students. But next year, we go back to the 7-period day that we were planning to have for 2020, 2021. So that's the schedule that our students will have. The one difference that we piloted last year before COVID that really worked well and our teachers and our students really liked was something called Flex. So approximately 2 Wednesdays a month, we'll have a different schedule where the periods will be shortened, and it'll include this Flex. Flex would be something where teachers could choose to have students come to their class if they have tests to make up, or if they felt like the students were struggling so they could get extra help. If a teacher doesn't select a student, then the students would have a chance to select for themselves, and they might choose some type of an enrichment activity, or say we had a teacher that wanted to give them guitar lessons, or something a little bit out of the ordinary. And then if students didn't choose something, then the teachers would have another chance, and they would say, oh, I didn't choose these 3 students at first because I thought somebody else might choose them, but I'm going to choose them now. So it's a process that really allows for some personal choice, and we're hoping will allow for our students to get that extra help that they need from their teachers. So that's our schedule. Something else I wanted to highlight, so dropping in or adding classes. Students who fail required courses during the school year will retake the courses through one of our credit recovery options. Before it said in summer school, but we have different options besides summer school for students to do credit recovery. They can actually do credit recovery right within the school year through our ALC. So that is one change. We changed the language. A section was titled Grade Level Promotion, and really, it has more to do with being on track for graduation. I mean, students do move. I mean, if someone's a 9th grader, the next year they are called a 10th grader, even if they don't earn all of the credits that they needed to for 9th grade. But the idea is that we talk to the students about, okay, you are a 10th grader, but we want to help you to keep on track for graduation. So using that language with them, and with the idea that absolutely we know that our students want to graduate with their class, and we encourage them to graduate with their class, and we work on that. But we also want them to know that even if you don't graduate with your class or on track, it's okay to do it the 5th year. We want to keep encouraging them, to keep working on the 5th year. They can work through our ALC and they can still graduate and get that diploma. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to highlight, we, much like I believe Mr. Shara talked about with tardies, we had the language tardiness is disrespectful and disruptive. We softened that a little bit to say tardiness can be disruptive in the learning environment, just not quite as abrasive there. Also with tardies, instead of saying administration will assign detention, we changed it to administration may assign detention, just leaving that open too, because that might not always be what happens. Our teachers are able to assign detention themselves, and a lot of times that takes care of the problem, and really for them to work with their students directly instead of having it come from administration. That way they can have that extra time. Maybe not even calling it detention, just say, hey, I want to work with you after school, and they can get that extra support. Let's see, backpacks. This year we had students, a lot of our students don't use their lockers, and so instead of saying students will be assigned a locker, it says students can request a locker, because a lot of them don't use it. They like to keep their things with them, which is fine. As far as our internet use and abuse, I worked with Eric Harder as far as the language in this section, and we came up with students who do not agree to be bound by the terms of the acceptable use policy will be given an alternative plan per administration. This has to do with the idea that the laptop really is central to education. You know, our students use their laptops in every single class, every single day, pretty much. And so we have to, if a student that acceptable use policy is very important, but we have to work with the student and with the family. We couldn't just deny them a laptop in the same way we couldn't just deny them a textbook. I mean, it's that much a part of their learning.
Can I ask why somebody might not agree to sign that?
I have not personally had that happen. I have not had that conversation with a student who wouldn't sign it. Anybody else? No. Okay. So that's a good question. And I think people do sign it. It's reasonable. Let's see, items with wheels. Basically, it's important for safety reasons that students aren't using, say, rollerblades or skateboards inside the building, but we do allow them to store them in the building because we do have kids who that's the way that they get to school. So we just changed that language. We had a chemical and or smoking policy. We're just calling it chemical policy. That makes it a little bit cleaner. And we had school resource officer may be contacted. We changed it to may be contacted instead of will be contacted because that gives us a little bit more leeway there. Sometimes it's appropriate for us to involve our school resource officer, and sometimes we decide that we'd rather not take that step at that point. Dress code, you've already heard a lot about. We are all in alignment, and I really need to shout out to Sheila Berger. She was the one that really brought this forward as maybe we want to look at the language we use for our dress code policies, and not just for the reason of having it kind of standard across our district, but also just looking at it like, our focus is learning. This might not be something we need. As long as the environment is conducive to learning and as long as things aren't offensive, it might not be where we need to focus our time. So those were really good discussions that we had. In school suspension, this year, I will say that we have not, as administrators, we have not used in-school suspension, and it's worked just fine this year. And sometimes there's always a debate about, does in-school suspension really solve anything? Does it really teach a lesson? Is it really helpful? And this year, again, with things being very different and we have less kids in the building, we haven't felt a need to use it. We may in next year, but we wanted to leave it, instead of saying that it will be assigned, we changed it to may be assigned so we can have a little bit more leeway there. Open lunch, this year we have both our juniors and our seniors having open lunch, and we want to continue that for next year as well. It's worked really well. Let's see. Parent-student portal, we just changed it from it, instead of a collaboration tool, a communication tool. It's more of a communication tool than a chance to collaborate. Report cards, students have to request to have a report card mailed home, so we just changed that language in there. Report cards will be mailed home 2 times a year if requested. Otherwise, everything is available online. Let's see, breakfast and lunch program. So again, this year, we didn't need to have lunch available in the commons, and so we didn't. And some of that was because we have less kids in the building, although we did have to do the 6 feet spacing at lunch, and it's great that we have such a large cafeteria, we could do that. But because both juniors and seniors have open lunch, that leaves more space as well. So we just left this open, that the commons may be an option during lunch. We're not sure about that yet. It makes it, the Commons is a nice option for students, but it also is pretty hard to supervise both the lunchroom and the Commons. The Commons isn't designed to be an area where you would really contain people. And so, we're still thinking about, what the best option is there. Technology, Mr. Harder told me that really we should be using district network instead of using internet, so we just made those changes as needed. He also suggested that we use the phrase identifiable information instead of just address and phone number when talking about protecting privacy of self and others, so just making that a little bit of a wider thing. And another just kind of softens this a little bit, saying students should take care of their computer to avoid damage, instead of saying students should never try to break or damage the computer. So it's just a little bit of a nicer way to say it. I think that covers the highlights. Thank you. I know that was a little bit long-winded. Are there any questions for me?
That's a huge lift to go over the high school handbook. Thank you.
I actually enjoyed it most of the time.
It's important to have someone that can appreciate a good handbook. So that really is a gift. So thank you.
These guys are laughing because they know. Part of it for me, being this is only my second year in the role of assistant principal, it helped me to understand the school better and maybe understand some of the history of how we got to where we are and what things still make sense. And so for that reason, it was enjoyable. Maybe not all of the renumbering the index and all of that.
When you were talking about wheels in school, as far as, it's me, sorry. I know it's hard to tell who's talking.
Yeah, who's talking?
It made me think that I wonder if that rule was originally in there from when kids used to wear Heelys, on the, okay, Andrea's nodding. That's what I was thinking that's probably where that came from. So, and those haven't been around for a while, so.
Oh, yes, I didn't mention that.
Yes.
And know that there will be things coming up in the future that we haven't even thought about yet.
Yes.
So.
Well, I will say rollerblades are coming back, my daughter tells me, so.
All right. This is all good. Do I have a motion to approve the changes to the AHS? Okay, CC motion. Do I have a second? Second. Angie seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. And I'm going to run down there and grab a piece of paper because Sharon gave it to me at the beginning of the meeting, and then I realized I left it sitting there. So under other business, I have first reading of revised policy 516, student medication. Do I have a policy committee member that is? Okay, Peggy.
The purpose of this policy is to set forth the provisions that must be followed when administering non-emergency prescription medication to students at school.
Okay, this is a first reading. It will come before us at our next meeting for a final reading and an action item. A reminder that we have the school board study session will be on May 24th at 4 p.m. in this room.
Can I make a comment before we adjourn?
Sure.
Could I was really happy to see such a large turnout at the retired banquet the other night. It was awesome. There were some really tremendous educators who were honored. And you remember how big that lasagna was, David? That was huge. It was really good food. But on, I believe it's a Tuesday, May 25th, the Austin area retired educators are hosting a retirement tea out at Ruby Rupner, and there won't be as many honorees, but it should be a good time because the Austin retired educators had that honor themselves at one time. So I'd like you to put that on your calendar.
That was a gracious invitation that we
Yeah,
received,
yeah.
so thank you to them.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to request a motion to enter into closed to close the meeting for the purpose of reviewing personnel data that is not public per Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 2A3, and to receive information on a current contract negotiations. Do I have a motion to go into closed session? Evan motioned, Angie seconded. Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed?